Hey guys, it's Iskamar. It's finally here. We finally have a general release range for Bless Online. We don't know the exact day, but we now know that Bless will be launching in May. And some other big news tied to that is that Bless is going to be buy to play, which is really big in my opinion. We'll get to that more a little bit later. But as far as this video goes, it kind of got fully thrown off because before that I was going to tie some of the general news with some speculation that I had that now got spoiled by the actual Blessed devs, and it confirmed what I was doing. But my plan for this video was I had all these different quotes from different interviews with the Blessed team, basically coming up with the speculation that there's going to be a big rework to combat and the skill trees that we haven't seen on Japan or the Korean rebuild server. And a lot of people that I've played with were really skeptical about it. They're saying that things like that they could read it in a different way, that it may just be what's been rebuilt for Japan. But I was putting a video together about why I don't think that could actually hold up based on what they were saying. And now NeoWiz wants to come and play spoiler and basically confirm it before I even had the chance to throw my predictions out there. But in their latest interview, along with their announcements, they went on to MMORPG, and one of the interview questions was, what new features will players find added to the game? And their answer was, one of the biggest new features players will find is localization, including a full voiceover for English, and a new combat system will allow players to have their own combat styles and combat mode, even if they wear the same equipment and have the same level. This new combat system will debut with EA for the first time. So now it's just been cleared up. There's no other way this could mean anything. We're going to be getting a new combat system revamp. How big? We don't know. Gonna touch on that a little bit more. So, big changes coming to Bless. Right now, it seems that the changes have to be big. Like, maybe people like it could be assumed that we're getting some minor changes, but from my opinion, I think these changes are gonna be pretty big. And there's one major reason, and that is that they are choosing to withhold the assassin class. Actually, not even withdraw the assassin class from early access. And this is a big deal. For one, early access is basically launch for this game. There's going to be no resets, there's going to be no wipes. Early access is basically a soft launch. And two, the assassin class was one of the earlier classes to get reworked, and they've already been out on Japan and the Korean rebuild servers. So in my opinion, for them to go to the extent to completely take a class out that's been out for a long time, there has to be some pretty big changes to the game that broke the class, or the class was just broken in its current state to the point that it wasn't going to be some minor reworks that fixed it. They decided to withdraw it. I'm thinking that the changes to just the game in general are going to be big. And I think this is going to be a good thing because Bless was in a pretty good state for some classes. Like, for example, Mage had really healthy amount of build viability, and there was some pretty interesting synergies within their trees. There was a lot of room to play around with builds. But for the most part, the other classes, there's a lot of options, but they mostly play with themselves. For example, if you look at like a cleric, and you take they have like 3 different roles they can fulfill. They can have the DPS role, they can have the heals role, tank role. Pretty much every line only worked with itself, and their passives that you use to customize your skills, they only worked with themselves with those lines. There wasn't much room to play around, and from what I gathered, a lot of classes were this way. Also, turn this down a little bit. Also, the current skill system worked so that in a way that the only way you actually tweaked skills themselves, other than getting passives on the side, was you would put points into the skills, and it would do some stuff like change the scaling, like this skill now scales off of 15% AP, 20% AP, 25% AP. It would go up like 5% with each point, and you might see some CDR and maybe a few general changes. But what they're saying is that this didn't offer as much room for customization as they wanted. So it's looking like we're going to be getting some changes to all that too. So I'm thinking that the changes are going to be so big that they had to remove Assassin, because even with even with where Assassin was, and Assassin is pretty broken on JP, there are some things that they could have, as a developer that's sitting there, we're about to launch our game, we really want to succeed, we've had a lot of failures, and if we were to just rip out a class because it's not balanced properly, like, that's not going to look good. I don't think that's the choice they would go with. I think there would have been some nerfs they could have hit Assassin with that would have still kept it in a playable state. So I don't think this is a balance thing. I really think that there was a lot of big changes, and within those changes, Assassin needed more work and attention. So because of these changes, we will not be seeing Mystic and Assassin on early access, which really sucks. But at the same time, I'm really excited to see what those changes will be for all the other classes, and I think that it could still be something that's really good, even though they had to remove a class. Now, as far as other things go, we now know that the game's also going to be buy to play, which is a pretty big deal to me, because I was getting really worried about the payment model of the game for a while now, because I've actually played on both Korean Rebuild and Japan. And in Japan, which is like their most up-to-date version that we haven't seen yet, the cash shop to the newcomer look fine. Oh, nothing bad here. But when you actually play a lot of Bless, you really see the problems with the cash shop. And the cash shop had a lot of broken items, not broken items, but a lot of things on there that interacted with gameplay too much. Like, for one, you could buy skill decks on there and skill resets, and of course those players could then sell those on the auction house for gold. But one of the major problems was people didn't really sell the skill reset points. And there's only 5 skill decks. This just conveniently popped up. There's only 5 skill decks, and with the amount of optimization and tweaking. So actually, I'm gonna pause this for a second. This is a good moment to actually talk about the skill tree. I didn't have anything prepped for that beforehand, so this just came up at the perfect time. So as you can see, this is for Mage. You have 3 different cores for the classes. Then you have your active skills, and then you have your reactives, and you have your passives, and then your stats. And as far as it goes, is you don't just pick a line. You can choose and pick how you want, and then you match it with current passives that synergize towards what you're going with. And Mage was probably the best example to show to this, because they had the most healthy amount of options. Like, there's really a crap ton of options and build by ability on Mage. However, even with the options they have, a lot of the trees and passive design are still kind of meant to only affect themselves. So that's why I'm so excited about this, because as you can see, like right here, you put points into your skills, and it's just a really standard way of upgrading them, and then you have a few passives to select from. So I'm hoping that we get a lot more depth. And don't get me wrong, if it were just to launch with this, there's still a good amount of depth, more than a lot of recent MMOs that have come out, but it's still not the depth that I really enjoy when it comes to building characters. But as far as the point I was making with build optimization, so if you only have 5 skill decks, like, having 5 builds isn't enough for me. Like, if you cannot reset it, you can't take points away. If I'm going into arena, I could have 5 different arena builds based on the comps I'm going to face alone, and that doesn't factor in 100v100 world, just questing in the world and being ready for both PvE and PvP you might encounter. That doesn't factor in raiding or like the hard dungeons. Like, my build will change so much for that, and you can't detract points on the Japanese server. You cannot detract points. The only way to do that is to have a skill reset scroll, and that was tied to the cash shop, and they were all pretty damn expensive, like really expensive, probably like $2 or something like that per skill reset scroll, and that would weigh out over time. And then you have the decks. The skill decks are like $10 or so. So if you really wanted to be competitive at the highest level, it just, that wasn't good. But then also tied along with that is like the way you upgrade items and get them awakened or whatever, which like I'm not sure exactly how all that plays out, because I quit before I got to that point, because I just wanted to wait for NA. I didn't want to keep playing and burning myself out before NA. But one of the main ways to get through the mechanics of awakening your items is there's a cash up item that basically mitigates some of the RNG. It makes it a lot faster, a lot easier. So they had that on there, which just really wouldn't have been good. So I'm glad they went to buy to play, and I think it's a lot bigger of a deal than a lot of people realize. However, I'm still not sure what they're going to include on the cash up there. I hope that most things that were there are taken off, because for it to be warranted buy to play, you would hope that there isn't really a lot that should be forced into buying, and I think that's the way they will go, and I'm sure we'll be able to feedback that pretty soon if they show it before release, or at least in the early stages of early access. So anyways, I just wanted to talk about the big updates. They spoiled my whole, they spoiled the whole plan I had for this video, where I was going to take all these different quotes and show why I think we're going to have big combat changes and changes to the skill systems themselves. But at least I know I was right. I didn't have to get it out there for everyone else to see. Plus, it wasn't even really about being right. It was just that I thought there was some exciting things going down, and turns out there were. So Bless Online is going to be out in May. We're going to have a new MMO to play, one of the first AAA titles to release in a long time. It's been a big drought, and for those of you that are sitting on the fence with Bless, like, I think it will definitely be worth a try for early access. This game, it is Asian, but it really doesn't play a lot like an Asian MMO. It's more like a Western MMO in a lot of the core design elements, and there is some Asian RNG elements. There's some Eastern RNG elements mixed in, but still worth checking out. The game has a lot to offer. I'm going to be putting out a lot of content for this game, heading up towards release and through release. So if you like this kind of content, then keep coming back, like, subscribe, whatever. If you got something to say, leave a comment below. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this news gets you excited for the next big MMO release. Take care.